of Behind the Ballot. I hope everyone is enjoying our special guest episode that has been out today with New York Congressional District 15 candidate Jose Vega. I hope everyone's enjoying that episode, and we are going to have a boatload of more guests. So please look out for any additional tweets, Instagram posts, as we will be highlighting our guests as these dates get closer. And just want to get right into it, looking at political and electoral insights. Starting first with the main Senate race, which has gotten a lot of shine and light in the past few months. Mohammed, I don't know if you've seen the two individuals that are kind of in this. It's the Democrat is Planter. He is the non-establishment
Graham,
Democrat,
is
like
it Platner or Planter? I think it's Platner.
Plattner,
Graham
yeah,
Platner.
Plattner.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's a basically like you're almost like union style Democrat, and they're both. And
Yeah.
Susan, I think it's Susan Mills, I believe is her first name, but she is, I think, about 70 years old.
She's the
Like,
current governor of Maine, yeah.
yeah, the current governor of Maine, 70 years old, and this is who.
77.
Yeah, think about that. 77. By the time that she finishes her Senate term, which is 6 years, she'll be well over 80. So
Yeah.
this is who Schumer, the head of the establishment Democrats, want to put forward instead of Plattner, who has the backing of the younger generation of Democrats. It's something that we've seen the establishment Democrats not take in and embellish their younger Democrats, like how we have Jeffries not endorsing Mondami and things of that nature. You're seeing a real
Schumer
rift.
hasn't either.
Yeah, Schumer hasn't either. I think the only ones have been Kamala and I think maybe AOC or Hillary Clinton from like that area. But yeah, I think Hillary
I
Clinton
know
definitely did come
I
out
know
for him.
the New York governor did just recently, Katie
I think
Hochul.
Hochul, I think her name is
Yeah, Hochul, one or
Kathy
the other.
Hochul. Yeah,
Yeah, and I smart move by her in my opinion, because the reason we know that Jeffries and the establishment doesn't want to back up Mamdani is because he can actually say Israel is evil right now. I mean,
yeah,
Benjamin. I should clarify. Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal who should be arrested. And just like we just saw with that video with Cory Booker, where he was like, "Oh well, I can't say whether or not Netanyahu is a war criminal, but
yeah,
I can say that this is something that I really feel strongly about, and my mission to make this an issue is something that that I find the people of New Jersey find respectable, some kind of runaway spinoff." And then he
yeah.
says, "Oh, but I can say that Netanyahu is worse than Trump," and I'm like, that doesn't.
That does nothing for what the individual asked. And for our listeners, that podcast was, I believe it's I've Had Enough podcast.
Yeah,
It's a I was able to listen to a little bit more of it, and I sent it over to my friends, and I was like, this is these are kind of the stance that individuals take that do get primaried against by younger generations.
yeah,
I would. I've highly respected Cory Booker. I feel like in his more recent years from 2020 to 2025, it has been a more the theatrical politics in a sense, from his Spartacus moment to his 48-hour plus grandstanding on the Senate floor. All of these,
I'm doing this for
yeah,
Jersey.
all these, theatric outbursts and things of nature. But we're not really seeing levels of policy really come out from his camp. So I do think there may be some challengers coming down the road as we're seeing these hiccups within his own political workings, but we will see what happens. But realistically, this Plattner and Mills is really about the establishment Democrats versus the ever more growing younger Democrats and the younger face of the Democratic Party, which is where really we need to go. We've talked about AOC and Bernie being out in front about this, and I think they're on the right side of things. I think they're pushing the right candidates. We don't need 70, 60 year old candidates running when we have such a young generation that is ready to step in and do that work. Actually, I believe in Maryland, I shared this with you, Muhammad, as someone, you have aspirations for running for Congress. Maryland's actually taking in requests from Democrats that want to run in the state as well. So I would love to see other states kind of take that initiative and really pull together in their younger populations, except for those young Democrats, which and those young Republicans, which we were trying to find a way how to work that in here, but I think now is the perfect time to kind of segue into that.
And I want to add
Yeah,
this
yeah, start
before
off.
we
Yeah,
get
go ahead,
into
go ahead.
this because I think this is so ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think most young men do say stupid jokes with their friends. There's one
Oh, I
thing to
thought that's
make a stupid joke, and then there's
locker room
another thing
talk.
to say, I love Hitler. If this gets out, we're in trouble. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, he can. So I'll try to. I'm gonna pull up some of those texts. They were pretty bad. I was actually reading them to Alexis, my girlfriend, kind of about like what what kind of were the things that they were saying. I one of them where rape is epic.
yeah,
That's a little
talking
crazy.
about the Spaniards coming over to Mexico and having sex with a woman, and then someone said they didn't have sex with them, they raped them, and then someone said rape's based.
Yeah,
Which,
he
for
says
any older listeners, base just essentially means something that's disagreeable but that you agree with.
right, literally. And it says like just reading these texts, they're all kind of like a group bundled up. But says basically everyone that votes no is going to a gas chamber with someone interacting with it with a fire emoji. Someone says, "Great, I love Hitler" as a follow-up to that. Another individual say they love the watermelon people. Okay.
Yeah,
Another one says, "This girl is fully raped." What else we got here? I'd go to the zoo if I wanted to watch monkey play ball. Okay. Once again, I'm ready to watch people burn now. And the most funniest one out of them all is that someone said if we ever had a leak of this chat, we would be cooked for real, for real. And yes, they are.
yeah, they all
So
lost their
like
jobs.
I don't want like I understand everyone was saying that the Democrats are the one that are divisive and whatnot, but you're literally seeing firsthand text messages from the young Republican group, which is usually which is a national group. And I was explaining to my girlfriend that they usually have young Republican chapters in almost every state, college, county, and so forth. Same thing on the Democratic side. So these talking points, well, negative talking points, should I say, are precipitating to those young Republican leaders and or groups who are in these text messages on Telegram. So, I mean, I'm glad this is something that did come out because it's important to note that with the level of, hysteria and political violence that it comes from both sides of the aisle. It's not a singular aisle issue, which individuals need to understand fully. We're not going to get anywhere if
Absolutely.
we keep pointing fingers at each other and saying, oh, it's you, oh, it's you. It's like, no, it's a small subset group of individuals who are pushing the wrong ideas on to other individuals who aren't in the know of politics. Kind of how we were saying last time about the way Trump was portraying the ACA subsidies, like things of that nature. If you can hit the right population, they'll just take what you say and just run with it, and we'll do that double check or due diligence, as me and someone like yourself would actually do.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of people who, life's busy. A lot of people just
Yeah.
scroll through social media, don't bother to read stories. I'm guilty of the same thing. I don't always read the stories.
Nope.
And it's easy to really, especially when you have a certain bias, it's easy to be swayed over towards that side. Like, for example, I know Muslims who, because they hate the left so much, despite the fact that them being Muslims, they'll vote for someone like Donald Trump, who's been very adamant about how Islam is an issue.
Yeah.
You would think just from like a paper level viewpoint, like, why do these people support a man who doesn't like Islam? Well, it's because they view the other side as that much worse. And we live in a very polarized time, which is
Yeah, we do.
what's the punchline of the podcast? You know it better than I do. Like, no,
In balanced, engaged, and informative. I think
yeah,
it's
we
yeah, that's it right there. Yeah.
we try to give.
Engaged, balanced, informative. There we go.
Thank you.
Oh
We
God,
try to maintain
I'm
some bit
sorry.
of a.
I gotta throw on the merch.
Yeah, feel
Oh,
free.
I'm
Yeah, bring the
messing
hat
up.
out. Bring the hat out. So we try to give up like some form of a neutral standpoint. We do have our biases, though. We will, we do both lean our own separate ways. But it's an important thing to note. A hat does look good.
There we go. Look, so shout out to my wonderful girlfriend Alexis. She made some great hats. I have 5. I will be sending you one, Muhammad.
Nice. Thank
And
you.
hopefully by the new year, we'll have like an actual store that she can make up hoodies, all that stuff, so forth. Really trying to have people support a local podcast, which we've gotten some very great feedback from. But everyone can see these are the hats so far with the logo. They look
I'm
great.
glad it's like the baseball cap, not
Yeah, I
like the
wanted the
flats,
baseball cap. I didn't want
the
that type of
snapback.
cap. Yes, no
Yeah.
snapbacks, but yes, definitely more of these coming soon. And then as well as possibly an idea of when as we continue to have guests, sending them things as well once we have so they can, have a shirt from us or things of that nature. But yes, merch will be coming soon. We appreciate everyone who has been listening, sharing, liking, and doing and going above everyone else and sharing our podcast. We really do appreciate it.
Start
But
of
I'm
a
getting hot,
journey.
so I'm gonna take this hat off.
I had to show the hat first.
Had to show the hat. It's so cool.
Yeah, it
I
is.
actually when I wore it, I think she brought it on Friday. I literally didn't take it off for the whole entire day. I think 'cause it was just that comfortable. And I was just like, damn, like this is actually like,
A nice hat.
like a hat, and also like it's something that I helped put together basically. Like
Yeah.
this is ours. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's not
like, you
like some
built that up.
other business's logo. It's not Nike. It's ours. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's very, fulfilling to see. And didn't mean to get off topic there, but we're gonna bring it and reel it back in because now we're gonna be talking about New Jersey and Virginia
Yeah.
gubernatorial races.
And I want to finish the one thought I had,
Yeah, go ahead.
polarization, because it actually segues into that. So, I mean, we've seen, I believe it was actually the Virginia lieutenant governor, someone associated with Virginia politics, who said that he wanted to see a political opponent shot dead, just as like a personal grudge, not for political opponent reasons, but because he just really didn't like the guy.
People.
And then he was denounced by the Democrats, and I think it was the governor of Virginia was asked, like, "What do you think about this?" She's like, "Well, if the voters get to choose who they want to vote for." And I saw some Republican pundits being like, "Oh, well, why didn't she denounce him?" I mean, she said what he said was wrong, and she said voters can decide if they. I don't think there's really much more wrong thing to say that you can get from a politician than that. They people
Yeah,
aren't going to throw their party compatriots completely under the bus by saying, "Oh, I think he's an evil person who nobody should vote for." You know what I mean? If we were all talking like that, then we'd be saying that about Stephen Miller and people like that every single day of the week.
I was gonna say
And
how tall did AOC say he was?
4'11". Oh, that made me
4'11.
laugh so much. And then
He's
Fox
actually
News
like
ran a
five. I think he's
segment
like
on
five
it.
six or something like that. He's not too short, but in pictures he does look pretty short, and he does look like he can have that Napoleon syndrome, big man syndrome, and stuff like
I
that.
mean,
Just the
dude,
way
he's
he
got
even
more
talks at the
power.
podium.
He's got more power than like 99.99% of the world right now. You
Yeah,
know what I
more
mean?
than
Like
the
he's basically the
DHS
guy making
secretary.
policy.
Yeah, more than the DHS secretary who actually does that level of enforcement. He's got way more control. I think the only person he doesn't have more say than is Marco Rubio, who Trump's touts as the best Secretary of State, which honestly could not pop. Which I don't know if that's a fair assessment. It very well could be because I know our past Secretary of States haven't really been that great in
Yeah.
an extent. I mean John Kerry was Secretary of State, so maybe that's a I don't know. That's
Not a high bar
not
from
a
a
high
thing
bar,
to have.
not at all, because John Kerry wasn't the best in a sense, but it's better to have compare him to I feel like him instead of Kissinger in a sense. But
Oh, kissing. All this stuff about all right. Just because you brought up Henry
yeah, just barely
Kissinger,
brought it up. Yeah, go ahead.
so there's all this talk about the Nobel Peace Prize and how the one Venezuelan Zionist won it. So just to, we'll get right back into the domestic races. For those who don't know, the Nobel Peace Prize was just won by a woman in Venezuela whose name I'm blanking on for the
Yeah,
fact that she
yeah,
was
yeah.
giving, practicing and promoting peaceful democratic showings and things like that in the state country of Venezuela. This woman asked Israel to invade country and topple the regime. I don't understand how that's peaceful. She did this a decade ago. It's not like she just did this after getting the prize. She did this a decade ago. Just last week, she said, if I was in control of Venezuela, I would privatize every single oil company in the United States could come in and take massive profit from it. It would be a great deal. And then even before that, the woman she legally can't run for president in Venezuela because she tried to lead a coup back in like the early 2000s. So
That's a
like
good
the
way to
woman
get
is
yourself out the race, huh?
Yeah, so the woman isn't necessarily a figurehead of peace, but when you get Obama winning the prize as well and Trump saying that he should be winning the prize, it's clear the Nobel Peace Prize doesn't really mean anything for peace. It just means, oh, hey, these are the people who are in charge of the Nobel think should be getting the reward. And this is a thing that a lot of people talk about, especially
Yeah,
nowadays. And it's just how much control Israel and the Zionists have over the world. This is such a good example. Imagine if this woman said, Brazil, please invade my country so you can kill and get rid of the president in charge. Please do that.
yeah,
She wouldn't even be in contention for the Nobel Peace Prize. But because she's asking Netanyahu, you know what I mean? It's, oh my God, this woman's a figurehead for democratic establishment. We need to use TikTok now so we can promote how she is such a good woman.
yeah.
That was my horrible Netanyahu impression. But point being about why I even got to this is because Henry Kissinger also won the Nobel Peace Prize.
Which is kind of
How
crazy.
the heck
Yeah, I don't know
does
how
the
that.
has
I don't know how that happened, but last thing, you bring up that $7,000. I said this to my friends and so forth. I didn't say it on the podcast, but that 7,000. I don't know if we just said it on here actually. That seven
I
thousand
think we may
dollars,
have. I'm not sure how it equals
just
the
in
amount, the
yeah,
exact
equals the
same
amount to
amount
the
of
30
silver
shills
Judas got.
that Judas got to betray Jesus. So putting that out there,
Wait,
take it as you will. Just
uh,
saying, but
a little bit more fire for this oil is that Trump at the Knesset yesterday, he said that he is proud of how his daughter converted to Judaism.
oh, I
Imagine
saw that.
saying,
Yeah,
"I'm glad my daughter abandoned Christ."
Chris,
You
right,
know what I
Chris.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah, the person that's supposed to be returning and
Yeah.
saving. Yeah, I don't understand
I
that.
mean,
I really just don't. I mean,
I
he even said himself he doesn't know if he's going to go to heaven. So
the thing is, I
he
don't think
stamped
Trump's
himself out
not
already.
Christian. You know what
He
I mean?
stepped
He's not.
himself out already.
There. I mean, there's
Imagine
there's
he's
the
Jewish.
there's the rumor mill that's been going around for a few years now that he's Jewish. You know what I mean? That's been going around for a few years now from people close to him. It came
That
out
Trump
like
might have a
20.
little Chaim in it.
Yeah, it came out in like 2022, I think it was, like literally 3 years ago is when I first read it, that Trump, even when he wasn't president, you know what I mean? So he was
Yeah.
just not a president. It was like Trump may like people were saying close to Trump that he converted to Judaism in secret, which
Wow.
I wouldn't doubt. Because I mean, the thing is, we've mentioned this before, but how do you take pride as a Christian man for your daughter abandoning Jesus Christ? I just don't get it. I just don't get
Yeah,
it.
I
The
mean,
only reason you would do that is if you don't care about Jesus Christ at all. You know?
yeah, it's a twisting of how their religions have changed and the dynamics and optics on how they have changed. And yeah, we'll touch more on that as we get to the
Yeah,
global pieces
got off topic.
of the segment. But going back to the New Jersey and Virginia gubernatorial races, as I've said, I've had the wonderful opportunity of actually speaking to both of these candidates
Goodbye.
and as well as speaking to former governors about these candidates. So I hope everyone in New Jersey knows that they're having a gubernatorial race. You have on the Democratic side, you have Mikey Sherrill, former Navy pilot and congressman, emphasizing gun control and reproductive rights. And then you have Republican Jack Ciattarelli, a businessman critiquing high taxes and crime, reflecting voter dissatisfaction with the Democratic economic policies that have been from the General Assembly, as well as from Governor Murphy, who actually polls lower than Trump when it comes to approval within the state of New Jersey.
Really?
Yeah, so that's
Uh,
something to be note. That's something to take a note about. And then I was actually, I think I might have mentioned this already. I was at an event with one of the former governors, Governor McGreevey, to where he met Al Sharpton, talked about the election and everything. He was saying that, he thinks it's going to go to Jack Ciattarelli just simply on the independence side of things. Um, so, I can see it possibly going that way. Do I know who I'm going to vote for at the moment? I do not. Because currently, like, in the level of work that I do with community colleges and so forth, under the New Jersey Council of County Colleges, speaking with both of them, they both have very good sentiments and promises that they want to enact for the county colleges. But when it comes to, looking at their literature and their campaign and stuff, it's not flashed around on there. So, we'll see what happens with that election on November 4th. And as well in Virginia too. So in Virginia, the new Tarfalager group poll shows a dead heat with Democrat Abigail Spanberg, who's a former CIA officer. Wow. Oof. Focused on bipartisanship and national security, who is leading Republican Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears by 2.5 points, while Attorney General Jason Miars, I'm not too sure if I'm saying that last name right, takes the lead in the race.
So I butchered
Yeah, I don't know how
I
to.
butchered the
Yeah,
last name, so
it's
do
all
you.
right. But so Virginia has always been kind of like that swing blue state in a sense. So these implications are going to be for the Democrats within that state to kind of still try to hold on to it, because I know in West Virginia we have I believe Joe Manchin. I think he's West Virginia.
Is he still a
I'm
politician, like an
I'm not.
active one?
Did when did he? See, I'm blanking now. I'm trying to think. When did he? I'm not too sure if he retired. Regardless, though, he is like Joe Manchin. Everyone saw as being that Democrat that's a Republican, realistically. So hopefully we
Yeah.
don't see that same level from Virginia itself, because I think Virginia's governor was oh my gosh, who was it? He lost big. Democratic governor.
To the Republican.
No, it was Gary
This is
something,
familiar.
Gary mix something. He had like crazy hair or something. I remember him being on the news for a long time. He had a very contested,
You
yeah,
remember
because
his
he had like
hair
that
the
crazy
most.
hair and whatnot. It wasn't very well kept. And he lost hugely in his race for Virginia governor, actually, if I'm not mistaken. And then we actually in 2020 we lost that state actually. Not well, the Democrats lost that state actually. So that's I can't remember who that name is, but going to continue to move on, looking at the continuation of this shutdown. I mean, people are starting to look at a possible longer than 35 days, looking at 36 days
I
possibly. I
mean,
mean,
the 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 poly market odds are
yeah.
saying it's gonna beat the record for the longest shutdown
Hmm.
yet. I don't know how those poly market people have such
Yeah,
insider
I don't know either.
information, but they seem to be getting everything right. You know what I mean? Like I can put anytime I see like something like 75% on poly market, all I'm thinking is this is gonna
Right.
happen.
No,
This
seriously.
is gonna
Seriously,
happen.
though. And then, Republicans are mulling over four compromise ideas, including extending enhanced subsidies temporarily with work requirements, capping them at certain income levels, allowing states more flexibility, or tying them to broader healthcare reforms, as the ACA enjoys plus 30 net favorability. So it's crazy to think that when the ACA Obamacare was first passed, right, with Obama, in those midterms, they Democrats got obliterated. And that's when Obama
Yeah.
became a lame duck. So it's interesting to see almost 10 years later, probably those same voters are now wanting to keep their those ACA provisions intact. So that just like it's just the whole dichotomy of that is very it's honestly the political science of it. Realistically, that's what that science
Yeah.
piece is in political science. It's trying to understand how do you go from you know completely getting eviscerated in the midterms while putting out the most inspirational piece for Medicare for all, and then 10 years later everyone's championing it and now wants to keep it. It's just it's a great dichotomy of the political science and the whole world. But on top of
What I
yeah.
want to add to that, wait, I want to say, you have a thought that
No,
you
go
want to
ahead,
finish
go
before I
ahead.
intrude. I think a big part of that as well is that when an ACA Obamacare Affordable Care Act was first introduced, there was just so much polarization around it that I will agree to it. You know, it was good an idea, but it did change up the system in a way that forced a lot of people to cover costs for others, and while not everyone is guaranteed healthcare. And nowadays, though, it's so baked into the system that if you were to repeal it, people would be affected by that. So now people were thinking back then, well, they're changing the system. I don't like how they're changing it. But now it's that same thing again. Like, oh, they're changing the system again. and it's going to work out for the worse. And it's interesting to see how that's fallen along political lines. Very interesting, I think.
Yeah, very interesting to see how it's going to fall on those political lines, and you'll have everything coming from the shutdowns, kind of as well as these firings, these illegal firings. So you know,
Oh
yeah,
yeah, dude. Did
insane,
you see
dude.
they just brought back
Yes,
like
bro, the
hundreds of
CDC,
CDC
like, they fired him
workers?
and then brought them back, and Johnson only thing Johnson had to say was that, "Oh, and, shutdowns, you have chaos." Bro, like, come on. So you
Yeah,
let all those workers go just to let them go, thinking that you're gonna try to shutter and, um minimize government, but now you have to hire them all back. This is the same thing with the Dodge cuts. We're
it-
seeing the same exact thing. We're seeing that they want to try to shrink the government, but they don't have the means to do it. They simply do not have the means to do it. There is legislative and formal ways to go about this, but trying to do it through a shutdown is probably one of the most cynical ways about it, because I know they tried to put up a vote for a bill just to fund military pay, which failed in the House.
yeah, and I
And
remember
Trump was saying,
seeing Speaker Johnson asked, "Well, if this is a specific issue, then why don't you just push through a specific bill just for that, for military pay to get done?" And he was
right,
like, "Well, we can't do that. Like, why?
but
Why can't you do that?"
right, but they'll break the 60 vote rule though to get 100 of Trump's judges in one fell swoop approved, but are not willing to do the same thing for this. So that really has to tell you where their ideals and kind of what they want to put across matches up with. They're just
Yeah,
want to get what everything Trump's doing done, and they could care two nickels and a dime about the regular American voter at
yeah,
all. Like there was a
I've got a gut feeling that Speaker Mike Johnson has a chair in the corner of his bedroom. You know what I mean? Just based off how
I
he
honestly
acts.
think he's not
Maybe
going to be
two. Maybe he's got a
speaker.
couch in the corner.
Like, I don't think he'll be speaker next time around, honestly. I mean, he was on I mean, kudos to his team. They put him on, I don't know, I forget if it was Fox or whatever, to hear the complaints from not the complaints, to hear the concerns from a constituent in his district about the ACA cuts, what it would do, being a military spouse and everything of that nature, living paycheck to paycheck. Only thing he could say was that it's the Democrats' fault and X, Y, and Z. They need to pass the bill. We've done our job. It's like, sir, you have all three branches of government. Just pass the ACA subsidies. That is all the American people want. That is it. Pass those subsidies. Make sure that people in in his district don't go from, I think, what was the figures, 500 to 28,000 sorry, 2.8 thousand for like in premiums. If this
The,
bill is not ever, these subsidies are not increased, like I have, like we both have older relatives in our life, and I have a
that would
grandma
hurt my.
that's up north that's I mean, me and my girlfriend go to visit her. She's in a wheelchair and so forth, but it's like, from if you look at all the things that have been cut from the telehealth medicine pieces of it that have been cut, from now these subsidies going to raise up premiums. It's like, how are they going to be able to afford or even have the means to take care of themselves? Like, this is a horrible revolving issue that's going to get a lot worse if a deal really isn't made within these next few weeks. I mean, it's going to hurt both sides of the aisle, but I really do think Republicans will start bearing the brunt of it, given that they own, not saying they own the government, but they have
Hopefully.
a majority of seats and the executive branch and the judicial branch under their wings. So
And I want to
we'll
add this, which
yeah,
blows my mind when I say it out loud. Now, this is, I listen to Breaking Point. Sagar, I got to get better at saying the Sagar.
Sagar, yep,
Sagar, yeah, it's an E at the end. He was doing a bit of research behind the federal spending. 1%, take in mind, 1% of the federal budget goes exclusively to dialysis for senior citizens. So for those who don't know what dialysis is, it's when your kidneys fail, so you're hooked
yeah,
up to a machine, so it takes out the toxins of your system that your kidneys would normally do. And this only happens when you might get unlucky, you might have bad genetics, but also more than likely, the majority of the time, it's people who didn't do the best taking care of themselves as they got older. and it's 1% of our budget is paying for these dialysis patients to stay on dialysis. And what I find interesting about this whole situation is that they take on the politicians take on the stance, especially the Republicans right now, take on the stance of, well, we're going to cut costs to healthcare, and that's going to likely make you guys unhealthier, which is likely
Yeah,
going to result in more people going to spend more money on healthcare, which is going to result in them getting less healthy and going broke because we're pulling away healthcare subsidies because XYZ. It's like a spiral, like literally like a spiral. And it's interesting to me. I'll say this, and I'll say it now. I do think everybody has a clear responsibility to take care of themselves. When I see obese people, I think, how could you do that to yourself? When I see
yeah,
people who are
yeah,
physically,
yeah,
dirty or in a spa, I think, you should take care of yourself better.
yeah.
And that's
Everyone has
not
a
me
right
being
to manage and master their own health.
Yeah, and that's not me being rude or judgmental. It's just a pure plain thing. I want everyone to take care of themselves. I know people are happier when they take care of themselves. There's a quote that I really like, and that really rings true to a lot of the choices in life, and that's discipline's the only way to true freedom. Because we can
Yeah,
live as vices to what we love. I could eat, for example, a pizza a day because I really like pizza. Not only would my bowels hate me, I'd also gain weight like crazy. But
yeah,
sure, I'm eating what I want. I'm eating pizza every single day. This is awesome. But then, I put on 30 pounds. I've got heart issues. I've got more issues. My joints hurt. I'm not living life happily. If I didn't eat that pizza, if I exercised more, I would be healthier. I'd have less weight. My innards would work better. And also my joints would work better. XYZ. Point being is that we are in a situation where in America, it's very clear people don't take care of themselves well. They don't.
nope,
We have one of the most obese populations in the world. Now, a lot of that can be blamed on our food quality and the fact that poor income neighborhoods and areas, it's much cheaper to get fast food and cheap chemical laced foods than it is to cook something fresh or
yep,
do something about that. Like it's much easier to just buy something with food stamps that is already pre-cooked if you've had a long day of work. That stuff's probably not going to be the healthiest. Snacks as well. I mean, just recently, actually, one thing I heavily agree with RFK Jr. on is getting rid of food, not allowing food stamps to be spent on soda and things of
yes,
that nature.
yeah. I agree with that as well. And also taking out all those artificial dyes and going after all those
Yeah.
companies going for those dyes. I'm 100% for that. Definitely.
Yeah, no, and I think it was the right move because we shouldn't be allowing, especially the poorest people in our communities and society and country, to be able to use this money for this taxpayer money to use it on junk food.
Right.
This isn't a way of saying, of course, these people deserve to eat. Of course, these people deserve to get the help they need to eat and get healthy food in
Right, but it
them.
should be
But
nutritional food, not
we,
that not the junk and stuff. That's no, that's exactly what it really should be. And like as you're stating that number, on like the messaging on the Republican side, how they're saying that it is illegal immigrants that or that the Democrats are fighting for to include them in these subsidies. There was a report that 0.4% of illegal immigrants, that's the percentage of illegal immigrants that receive emergency Medicaid. That is the only level of Medicaid and medical services that illegal immigrants can get. Emergency Medicaid, not your base standard Medicaid. 0.4% is for illegal
and
Ill goes towards illegal immigrants or illegal immigrants use those services. So they can tout as much as they want that, Democrats are trying to give illegals X, Y, and Z. The numbers, that's not, as Republicans want to be numbers people, that is not the case when you look at it. And these numbers need to be touted more and more and more and more because it's dangerous to not point out what is the statistical and fact truth or what is the party truth. That's what I've come to. There needs to be a difference. What is the party saying they think is true, and what is the actual truth, as plain as it's written, not interpreted realistically. That's where
yeah,
it's yeah.
I love how that one quote really rings true to this. When the facts are with you, argue the
Yes,
facts. When
yeah,
the law is with you,
yeah,
argue the
a great
law.
one.
When neither are with you, pound your hands and scream like hell. And I think we're really seeing that, and we see it with both parties all the time. You know what I mean? People are sick of the Democrats. I'm one of those people.
Yeah,
We're
we
one of those
definitely are.
people. But Republicans are the ones in power now, so of course they should get more criticism for what they're actively doing. And what we're seeing them actively do, like Speaker Johnson, like, oh, it's the Democrats' fault. Buddy, you can quite literally shoehorn it without the subsidies. You can force it without the subsidies if this
Yeah,
is
you
what
can
the
push
issue
it
is.
through.
But
Yeah,
you're
just
not.
blow up the
You're not,
filibuster.
because they know what's going to happen. They know their constituents will be furious with them. I mean, heck, even if 80% of Republican voters think it's somehow Democrats' fault that ACA subsidies weren't included, having a fifth of your voter base know you're the reason why their life just got a lot worse is an easy way to lose that core vote that
Oh
you
no,
need.
easy way.
Like, imagine easy way. Imagine Pennsylvania. Imagine, the swing states.
Well,
It's
no, it's the
over.
swing states
You
and
know,
the rural states. That's where it's going to be the most because a lot of these rural hospitals are already shuttering as it is. So
yeah.
once you live in, let's just say, out there in Texas, let's say a rural area, let's say a hospital is 5 to 10,
Panhandle.
like
Nothing
5 to
happens in the
like let's
panhandle.
say let's go a little bit crazy. 15, 20 miles away from you is a hospital. Let's just say if
That's
it's
pretty
only
normal in Texas.
one of the only rural hospitals in that area, and let's just say they don't get this funding, they close down. Now you have to go almost 60 miles. Like, that's what
And I will add this
like,
as
that's what
well.
Democrats are trying to
Oh,
stop. They're trying to stop, individuals not being able to have access or have moderately affordable healthcare. Like, yes, I understand the ACA doesn't make everything cheap for everyone, and it did blow up a lot of individuals' premiums. When you look at it on a grander scale, it has done more good than harm.
and I want to add to this as well that rural hospitals may not have the equipment
Yeah,
needed for specific, screenings, diseases, injuries. So then these people would then have to be shoehorned into a more city hospital, though it has
yeah,
more filled with tech, machines, the expertise, and more. And I think that a big issue that we see right now, I mean, that's not just an American issue. It's actually across the entire world. People go to the cities because that's where the better hospitals are. And if America is a big country,
yeah,
though, a very big country, and if we have people from Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, having to drive literally to the city's capital to be able to get adamant medical care, it's a situation where we can work to figure out how to avoid
yeah.
that. We don't have to. We shouldn't be having people drive multiple hours to get the hospital work that they
Right,
need
yeah,
done.
it's almost
You
like
know?
the, abortion debate to a certain extent. I only say that because in the
Oh,
abortion debate, let's just say you have a state that does not have or does not allow you to have an abortion, you do have to go across whatever state lines to get that abortion. So, like, in that same token, imagine you're in, rural, any of the rural southern states that have rural hospitals, and you don't have one within your county or the county next to you or the county to the adjacent of you. You may have to go to a different state if all these hospitals are shuttering left and right, up and down, and also with your premiums going up, are you gonna be able to afford that trip to go
yeah.
across maybe county, city, state to go get, the care that you need? This is what the Democrats are trying to stop, and as I said before, they're staying on the moral high ground, and I think this is a issue worth taking the knife for. If I was I'm sorry, this is an issue that is worth falling on the sword for. I am sorry. That's the way I wanted to
Yeah.
portray that. But we're also seeing, like, with these whole ACA cuts coming, that there has been, we talked about it previously and we haven't talked about it recent, but it's been more in recent news, the redistricting efforts. So they're all tied together from, these ACA cuts, framing it as Democrats, and then as well on the redistricting efforts. So Kansas GOP approved a 460,000 in taxpayer funds for a special session to redraw maps, potentially favoring Republicans in congressional districts amid
Dang,
gender
Kansas.
marker debates, which is insane. And then North Carolina Republicans plan to vote on a new House map to gain an extra seat, spurring Democratic criticism over the mid-decade, sorry, gerrymandering. And there's a lot of other states that are now starting to do this. Last we reported, Indiana was doing it. I believe Hakeem Jeffries and JD Vance are looking at Republican and Democratic states that can fully push this. Don't forget, there was a commercial earlier today with actually Obama pushing the
I saw
Prop
that.
50 um, referendum, which is what AOC was also. AOC and Bernie were also running on, well, not running on, did a video in support of as well. And I think this is what the Democrats kind of need to do. They need to be out in front really on this issue, and they need to, at the congressional level, these members of Congress need to sit down with their governors and say, if you do not do this, potentially 19 seats will be lost by the Democrats if the Supreme Court ruling on the Voting Rights Act and they gut it. If that happens, 19 seats can be gone in a win. And that,
Which is possible at the
yep.
Supreme
And they're
Court.
actually taking arguments tomorrow. Tomorrow starts their oral arguments for this Supreme Court ruling on redistricting, which obviously I've just leading context to, would upend decades of the Voting Rights Act protections, tilting power by allowing Republicans to redraw, as I was saying, 19 more House seats. So with the House, it's by population. So that's why the House is really the only one that's being targeted. When it comes to the Senate, there's only 2 in every state. That's just written in the Constitution. That's just law as it is. But yeah,
Inarguable.
inarguable. But
Yeah.
experts warn it could undo civil rights era gains, enabling partisan maps in states like Alabama and Georgia. And as we are saying, former President Obama is backing Gavin Newsom's Prop 50 measure. Accusing Republicans of trying to rig the future elections and future seats down the line. And Jeffries is getting out there. He's trying to get to Illinois, really wanting to answer the concerns of potentially dilution of Black representation in those map changes in Illinois. So this is very much a very important issue that everyone kind of needs to be, have on their brains, because the redistricting is something that, yes, it happens every 10 years, but the way that it's being done now in such a partisan light, it's getting dangerous in the sense to where you could say, like, how Jeffries is going to Illinois to hear the concerns of that Black population potentially diluting. Imagine,
Hakeem Jeffries is going to
yeah,
Illinois.
he's going to Illinois. It was reported that he's going to be going out. I mean, it's for the redistricting effort, so it is valid.
I get it.
Trust me,
I
dude.
get it.
19
But I'm like, nobody
Look,
else.
sometimes you need the leader of your party to smack some sense into you and actually, put your boots on the ground and do the work realistically. Because you have Governor Westmore saying he may not actually do it. It's like, no, you need to. The Republicans aren't holding back on doing this at all, and they understand that how
Yeah,
Democrats
I
are.
just hate Hakeem Jeffries.
You will back us up into a wall, and we will, say thank you and just act like everything is fine. Where Republicans are backed up into a wall, they will punch you in the face and take your pocket change and keep it moving, which is what the
Yeah,
Democrats need
no,
to do. And Newsom is doing that, and he's being the forefront of that. That's why he's risen so high up in the Democratic polling for 2028 down the line. But it's like they really
yeah.
need to, dig deep, dig their heels in on this issue before it's really too late, because states are passing maps, man. States are passing maps, and it's happening. It's a reality. It's a reality.
And I want to add to what you said. This one quote that I like. I'm sharing quite a few quotes this podcast episode. And it's, if you're playing chess with somebody and then they just punch you in the face, you're not gonna beat them by continuing the
So
chess game. You know what I mean? Like, clearly they're not concerned about the chess game, and that's a good way of looking at this, but during times like this as well, I know Trump is a very polarizing figure, and I'm a young man who's got a lot of see and a lot to learn in life. But I always think of the one South Park episode where the people were celebrating Obama winning, or the other people were trying to kill themselves over
oh
Obama
yeah.
winning, because it was like the McCain crowd versus the Obama crowd. And then, like, that at the end of the day, they're like, oh, wow, nothing's changed. It's
Mind you, that's also the last time we had civility in politics, I will say. The
Yeah,
Obama
and I
elections, that was
agree with
literally after that, nope.
the moment Trump and
It was
Hillary
game
came in,
over.
it was
Well,
just
realistically, it
over.
was kinda game
Yeah,
you could
some
say it was honestly kinda game over when Obama came into office because of how bad it was and how people were, um, talking bad about him being obviously African American or individuals, touting him as Muslim and all the hate that he received. That was like a it's something wasn't expanded upon when he won re-election, but I felt like it was something that sat in with a lot of Republicans to where Trump came in, it was like, "Oh, we can just say whatever now.
say
Doesn't
whatever.
matter now." So
Yeah.
I think that's
I mean,
like so I do think he was the last bit of it, but it started with him because you had all that hate towards him, the brown suit stuff and all that stuff. You had all those things build up, and then he won again.
the Kenya birth
Yeah,
certificate
and then he wins it, and
that
then he
wasn't
wins
real.
again. Like when Obama was doing elections, we knew by 10 o'clock who was winning, which is like pretty
Yeah.
astounding. How now we don't know until the next day. So
It blows my mind how bad some states count their votes. They should all take up the Florida method. I
I
don't know what
think
Florida
that
does
needs a
specifically, but
big,
they do it
huge
damn well.
overhaul as well. And then wanted to continue on with the there is a little bit of a Epstein Maxwell updates. Nothing crazy, but it's a little eerie, I would say.
And I wanted to add this
Yeah, yeah.
before we get into Epstein and Maxwell and everything. They related to the Republicans, and I think it ties into what I'm about to say. One of my favorite moments of the initial Trump 2016 president run, it was two things. One, him calling Ted Cruz's wife a fat, ugly dog, and him just like ended up loving Trump. You know, what a weak man. But we all know Ted Cruz is a weak man. But two, Lindsey Graham, who was at the time and extremely critical
Oh,
of Trump until
extremely.
Trump got political power and then he started deep throating him, was Lindsey Graham saying, whatever Trump will do to the Republican Party, we completely deserve it, and we will have to deal with the consequences for quite a bit of time to come. And this is such a good example of that. You know, I don't. The next Democratic president is not going to take it lightly after everything
Look,
that's been. And don't
look,
get me wrong, if it's like an establishment Dem, someone like Schumer's not running, but someone like Schumer, I can totally see them just pulling a Biden and just going senile for 4 years. But if someone like Newsom or AOC were to win, I could totally
you see,
see
that's
it,
what
something like this on the
Nick
Democratic side.
Fuentes said that actually. It was I didn't watch his video, it was a clip. Um
Groiper, we had a Groiper in our chat
yeah,
earlier.
I was gonna say,
I,
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know if you saw that.
I did see that. I was reading down there, but
Apparently, he doesn't like seeing a white man be
or named
Muslim.
Muhammad. I don't understand that. Yeah,
It's a shame.
it's very
We
much a
Christians
shame
and
that
Muslims are
these
brothers.
individuals tout so much how they want you to love them, but they have so much hate in their hearts. But to continue on from damn, what was I saying? I lost my train of thought. What was I going with?
Yeah, I lost my. We were talking about
Oh
Nick
yeah, so Nick
Fuentes,
Fuentes, he was
talking about
basically
how what he said
stating
about
that he would
AOC and
actually leave the country if a Democrat were to get in the office because they're going to be coming for blood, and they
absolutely.
have every right to. I'm not no, 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 no. I'm not saying that it's not. I'm not saying it's right for them to go after individuals the way that Trump has, but Trump has now, as I've particularly talked about the level of precedents that have been set and what has he been doing and rolling back will allow whoever is the Democratic nominee, if they were to win, to come in, not only upend everything, but then go after everyone as well. I mean, yes, there is the Supreme Court case with not being able to charge presidents for acts. Yes, that's perfectly
Oh
fine.
yeah,
That's for the top guy. That's perfectly fine. There's a whole other list of individuals that I'm sure Newsom or whoever gets into that seat are going to maybe look to target. I don't think that that's can't say that's not right. I mean, sometimes you need
uh,
to, show them that, Democrats aren't going to be the pushover or the lay down political party that we're actually going to stand up and fight hard, and we will punch you in your face and take your money, to give it for these ACA subsidies or for things that the American voters really want and or need in a time where the middle class is greatly vanishing. and the 1% is quickly growing much, much faster as we're shrinking.
1% owns more wealth
Yeah,
in the
1%.
country's
Yep,
history.
literally. It's literally insane, and we're seeing that 1% level treatment with, just going into the Maxwell updates just because 'cause they're short. Ghislaine Maxwell's presence at the Texas prison was pretty quiet because apparently there was a mysterious meeting with an unknown high person, um, with inmates reporting her having unusual favorable treatment, not unusual. If you have been listening to the podcast and understand it is not unusual. We know what's in the
We
crosshairs
know.
here. We know
Yeah.
what's happening. We know what's gonna happen. And
We're
yeah,
tuned
tuned
in.
in. So an Arizona member of an Arizona member of Congress is still not sworn in as well, tying into this meeting with Ghislaine Maxwell is that Johnson is not
It,
sworn in this individual.
important to add as well, he swore in
Yeah, 2
two
Republicans, but not
Republicans.
gonna do a Democrat because that Democrat's gonna sign the files to have them released.
And wait,
Man,
when
man,
asked
man.
about it, he was like, "Why'd you swear in those two Republicans, but not, I think her name's
Yes, Eileen
Adeline,
something,
something
yeah,
like
yeah.
that." Yeah, and he's like, "Well, their families came up. It was a special occasion." And then the reporter was like, "So if Adeline's family comes up, will you swear her in?" And he's like, "Well, that's a different
Oh, of
case." I'm like,
course it's a
"Mother,
different
no, it
case.
isn't. No, it isn't. You cuck." You know
Oh,
what
wait,
I
wait.
mean? I'm not sure. It seemed like this is why I said that chair in the corner reference. You know what I mean? I'm not. I can tell you didn't pick it up earlier, but when I said Speaker Mike Johnson definitely has a chair in the corner of his bedroom, I'm like, the guy isn't.
Yeah.
He's weak. I hate weak men,
Yeah, it's
MJ. I'm not sure.
yeah, AOC talks about this
I'll
too.
go
She
on.
basically she says that the Trump administration is actually weak. What did they
Yeah,
so
this is the thing. All right, a quick
yeah,
10
yeah, yeah.
seconds. Literally quick 10 seconds. Then you can get to your thought. One thing that I've really learned about how to tell if a man is weak or not is how he handles criticism. Trump can't handle criticism. He'll literally ban reporters that criticize him from coming to the White House press briefings. You know what I mean? He's literally said, "Oh, I don't like that question. Looks like you won't be coming around here anymore." It's insane to me how many weak men we see in politics, both on Republican and Democratic side. And I think Trump and Booker, are two fantastic examples of this.
No, definitely two great um looks at this. And what I was actually looking up was kind of um as we were talking in a sense, it's how AOC was saying that individuals, well, that the Trump administration is running through
Stephen
fear.
Miller,
It's running through fear basically, and they're
another
a
weak man.
weak government or a weak organization individuals. But I'm trying to find I need to find it. I'm looking for like the so regardless for our listeners, if you ever
Yeah.
have the chance, please, 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 please. I am an avid watcher of Star Wars. Watch Andor season 1 and 2. I cannot stress this enough. It is a very great TV show. It touches on a lot of the things that are happening now. And what I was going to touch on is how, and there is a manifesto within the TV show that talks about how the empire basically is so weak and fragile that they're willing to eat up their own, basically like put their own on trial, execute their own, just to be able to keep up that brittleness of authoritarianship and being that level of strong. So it's like those level of connections that I love kind of like thinking about and bringing to the podcast in a sense. But definitely
Yeah.
everyone, please, 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 please go watch that TV show. It's probably one of the best TV shows I have watched in the last year, I would say. I'm not just saying that because I'm an avid Star Wars fan, but just because I like very good TV that tries to pull from and replicate real life things. And then we're gonna move on to we got yeah, we got some good bit there.
Oh yeah, I think it'd be a good time since we were talking about weak men in politics, the Pentagon press access,
Oh yeah, we
and how
can
Trump now
yeah,
has it.
did I
And
have that
I
in
want
the
to.
notes or oh yeah, yeah, we
You
can
do, and I want
move
to.
off of the letter James indictment. I mean, that's we'll see how that's going to be played out. Um, they're still going back and forth from what's going on, but once you go through the press access, I definitely want to touch on the spending limits and what's going on with that and Citizens United, and that's a big one there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if we can, you can touch on that
Yeah,
right after this. But I've been spending some time reading about the press rejection
yeah,
in
dude.
with the Pentagon. So, for those who don't know, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, which by the way, I'm glad it's Secretary of War
Really?
now because that's far more accurate. Yeah, it's I'm one. It was
No, I know it
originally
was
the
originally a war. I
Department
think it
of
was
War.
what, if I'm not mistaken,
I think they
what's the
changed it to
first? I'm trying to think. Who
Defense.
was the first secretary?
I don't know when did Department of Defense become Department of War become Department of Defense. Yeah, I just want to see that. I think that was around ah the
That was Henry
50s.
Knox. He was the
They
first Secretary of War. Why did I think it was Andrew Jackson?
Andrew
But yes,
Jackson. That just sounds like
but
a video game main character name. But yeah, back to what I was saying. They so Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, has just recently said that unless news publications agree
only
to
one has.
certain law rules within the Pentagon, and these rules were a few things. Rule A: no, you had to be supervised the entire time you were in the Pentagon. You had to have like a soldier or somebody working at the Pentagon with you. Two, you weren't allowed to publicize anything the Pentagon deemed untrue. And three, if you did, you would lose access. So there's a few more entendres in there, but that was basically the gist of, hey, we'll tell you what you're allowed to report, and if you report on anything else, we're not going to let you report on anything at all. And out of all the news stations, only one agreed to it. One American news network. And Fox News even came out strongly saying, no, this is clearly like a slight on journalistic standards. We cannot agree with this. And I think this is just another example of like, if your department is doing something wrong, at least put some kind of a spin on it. Don't just come out and say you're not allowed to report on this, you're not allowed to talk about this. If it comes out that Pete Hegseth, has said that XYZ, at least try to, in my opinion, own the responsibility of it and then make it sound somewhat good. And this is my primary issue with this is that one fun fact that they Hesketh has like no real control over the Department of War. That's all Rubio and Stephen Miller right now. Hesketh, the reason why he's doing like these talks to the generals and all this social media stuff is because he quite literally has nothing else to do. The Secretary of State and Stephen Miller are the ones that have really been in Trump's ear talking about what the Department of War should do. Hesketh hasn't done
Yeah,
crap.
no, nothing.
They Yeah, and so it's just if you're going to be in this important role, at least be man enough to claim responsibility about what that department does. Now, this one quote that I think is very, very good for anybody in a position of leadership is that if you are the boss, everything is your fault.
Yeah,
Everything. It doesn't matter if an employee of yours murdered somebody and then someone's like, "Oh, you should take responsibility of it." You can't say, "No, I didn't murder them." Okay, someone who you brought on did it. You could say, "I clearly brought on the wrong person for the role. I'll make sure I double down on what I did wrong, check what I did wrong so I can make sure this doesn't happen in the future." XYZ. It is not difficult to own responsibility about these things. And that's one thing why I hate about politicians so much. There is never any responsibility being claimed. Like, do you know how much I just want to see like that normal person reaction of, yeah, this didn't work out like we wanted to. Okay, man, you don't have to be a genius. You don't have to be the Einstein of political science. Just tell us straight.
right.
Be a man. Claim that responsibility. And I always say be a man. I don't mean that in a misogynistic way. I just mean be a responsible, strong individual.
Yeah, no, I mean, without a doubt, like
And
that's where it really lies to. I think there was only what one. You might have said there's only one news station that actually
One
said
American News Network was the only
they
one
were
that
going to
signed up
sign up
for it.
for it. So now what he's going to do is just get rid of everyone else's credentials and whatnot. So this is the stuff that we're seeing from the
Weak man,
from
weak
the
mind,
FC from the
weak-minded men.
FCC, or was it FTC? What which? mhm,
FC's
Uh,
FTC's Federal Trade Commission.
federal.
FCC is the one related to whatever goes
So
on
yeah,
broadcasted, but I'm having
we had the
trouble.
FCC wanting to pull, broadcasting, Trump, itching on that as well. And now we have this. So you can see here, no, even though it's two separate things, there's one general idea they're trying to do to bring down the press corps within um major news outlets. Realistically, they want to try to bring
Oh
it
yeah.
down, even though when you start to look at it, a lot of these Republicans are now starting to own these news companies when it after all these deals and so forth that has been going on with the Trump administration.
Barry Weiss and
Yeah,
CBS.
basically pretty much. And now TikTok by the Israelis and so forth.
Oh my god, I could go off on that for a whole hour,
But the
honestly.
what I really want to touch on is the Supreme Court once again. So tomorrow, I believe, not I believe, I do think it is tomorrow. The Supreme Court is set to hear a case that could further erode campaign spending limits. So that original law was Citizens United, and I think that was either '07 or 2001. I want to say that ruling was between that time frame. I know that's a 7 year time frame I'm giving you, but unfortunately, that's what I have at the top of my head. But stemming from restrictions challenged during J.D. Vance's senatorial candidacy as impeding First Amendment rights. So this involves ongoing efforts to loosen post Citizens United regulations with implications for increased dark money in elections and reduced transparency. So the Supreme Court case, represented by a Trump connected law firm, cites Trump reported promises to oil donors for favors as evidence that pay to play influence is pervasive, arguing bribery laws must be narrowed to include such actions from prosecutions. Research confirms this through reports of Trump's solicitation of donations from fossil fuel executives, promoting Crews, CREW, it is a acronym, bribery complaint and analysis of efforts to legalize billionaire influence, potentially shielding future corruption but eroding anti-bribery safeguards amid public outrage. So this is what I think is the most important thing from this week, and it's only Tuesday. I think the Supreme Court looking at this and possibly looking at expanding how much money and how much speech companies have. I think on the precipice of Citizens United, it's a pretty ridiculous argument. It's okay. It's a pretty intuitive argument that has a ridiculous point to it to say that a corporation has the same say representation as my own voice and vote and money. Like that
Yeah.
just that ideal to to
Corporation
have a
can't vote.
corporation on the same balance scale as a human voter is another point in America where we started do a downwards trend because there was nothing but dark money that was going into elections. And that's when you had in candidates in 2016 with Bernie Sanders saying no, elections need to be publicly funded, because if you can't continue on your campaign and it's publicly funded, that means the public does not have their faith in you anymore. Then then that's fair game. Then unfortunately that's just how the deck is laid and the dice is rolled. To have bunches
And I
of
want
influence, whether it's
oh,
foreign or domestic, it's just ridiculous that they have an unlimited war chest that they can pile up and just throw at basically anyone.
and I want to add this to really give a good idea of how bad it is. Trump got more than $100 million from Jewish super PAC donors after he moved the Israel
Oh
embassy
God,
to
I forgot about he
Jerusalem.
did that too. Completely forgot.
Yeah.
Completely forgot.
So yeah, he got so before he moved it over, it was Miriam Edelson, a name you'll hear me say very often. She promised him, she was like, "Hey, I absolutely support your campaign. You're a big fan of Israel, so am I. Of course, because you are who you are, and I'll give you 20 million for the campaign. But if you're able to move the embassy to Jerusalem, I can see that you get 100." And he was like, "Okay, cool,
Ridiculous.
deal." And he got $100 million richer, and
Yeah,
that's
that's
it. Political decisions, massive political decisions being made because the president has dark money in his
literally.
pocket. And this has been happening for a while, but it's never been so
This is the most
obviously bad.
overt corrupt. I would say this is the most overt borderline levels of corruption that we have seen if you want to exclude um Watergate. Watergate was pretty well, I mean, honestly, a lot of this stuff is it's a
This
Watergate. It's
is just
almost
basically
yeah, everyone says
Watergate.
it's a Watergate every week with this president. So I'm like, man, I mean, you think about it on the
Yeah.
note, you're like, well, like Nixon wasn't overt about it. He did get caught, yes, but it wasn't like he actually there wasn't I don't think there were like correspondence of him actually stating this. Actually, no, there had to have been for him to get charged with it. But like, yeah, it's just like the way that the country reacted to that is not the same levels that the country is reacting to a lot of the things that have been done by
Yeah.
this president and the mismanage of normalcy. That's pretty good. Mismanage of normalcy that has been portrayed throughout the presidency and even Congress when it comes to Republicans at certain points. Because you have Marjorie Taylor Greene coming in as a voice of reason and Johnson coming in as a voice of insanity when it comes to the way they talk about certain real hot topic issues and continuing
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
I really hope MTG's like MTG and
Yeah, I really
Massey is
hope.
the
I mean,
next front end
I
of
really hope. I
conservatism.
wish they were like in the same state and kind of could like run with each other for things of that nature. That would be great. Um,
Yeah.
and then when it hit on our last two sections that we have here, economic and global news, it was touted that President Trump has threatened to impose 100% tariff on China starting in November, escalating trade. Yeah, I
Not
don't
gonna
think
do
so
it.
either. Escalating trade tensions and disputes over rare earth exports. There was a announcement that I do believe that China is actually looking to possibly make a deal of this matter, but I still, I do want to know what happened with that Ukraine deal. Maybe we'll see, maybe we won't.
Ukraine deal. I looked into it. The Ukraine deal was a bunch of
Yeah, I figured
BS.
that later.
They what it was that we would invest a bit in Ukraine
Yeah,
companies that would primarily be run by Ukrainians, and all we would do is get a small percent of profit and some rare earth minerals.
yeah,
It was not 250 billion. It was like 500 billion, I think was
something
the number he
touted
gave
like
out,
that.
something like
Yeah,
that. It was not $500 billion worth of investment going our way. Which, I mean, I've stated this before and I'll state it again. I do think that we should help Ukraine. I do not think we should take money from working class Americans to give it to Northrop Grumman, Boeing, and
yeah.
Lockheed Martin so they can sell their weapons to
Uh,
Ukraine. For those who don't know, that's quite literally how all of our aid goes to Ukraine and Israel. They take our money, send it over there, Ukraine or Israel. Then Ukraine or Israel sends it back to the
yep.
billionaires. That's literally all it is. That's literally all it is. I'm like, dude, I don't care if you're gonna buy our weapons. It shouldn't be our money. Take out a loan from us. Get
Yeah, dude.
amass money through the European Union. Why is my money going to this? It makes no sense, buddy. I am strapped for cash. You've got billionaires throwing $100 million at Trump just so he moves the embassy to Jerusalem, and now you're telling me you need my money to buy billions of dollars of weapons? Ask Europe. Ask the Middle East. Ask everybody else who's far richer than I am. Middle East has all that oil money. If Israel's so buddy buddy with UAE and Qatar, which they are, by the way, and the only reason why we got this ceasefire, which Israel, we can get into this in a little,
Base.
but with the only reason we got this ceasefire that Israel's already broken is because Trump has a massive amount of money personally tied up in Qatar, the UAE, and
So
Saudi
that I was gonna
Arabia.
say that
He's
probably
quite
would
literally
explain
building
why
a.
they it's a I want to be correct when I'm stating this. I think it's a base, a Qatar base in the United States to help show them how to
It's
fly
a.
certain jets or
I looked
American
into
jets or
this.
something
It's
of
a
that
U.S.
nature.
Air Force
Yeah.
base that they're adding Qatari area to the Air Force base for training Qataris how to use
Yeah,
F-35s and
which is
such.
fair, but I mean, uh, uh,
Clearly, they
yeah,
have
clearly there's a
influence,
little
though.
something.
What
There's a little something there.
the EU has one of those in America. The EU, who we've been buddy buddy with since World War II. You know what I mean? And now Qatar gets their own. And don't get me wrong, I love to actually see something happen with America-Muslim
Oh, so would I.
relations, especially
I
after the
definitely
massive
would.
amount of Israel propaganda that came out after and before 9/11. But this is the Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia. They're evil. They're not God-fearing Muslims. You can't be a God-fearing Muslim as a billionaire who's allowing the Palestinians to be
Yeah, I
genocided.
think
You
it's
can't. I don't care.
theorized, and I mean, reported, wasn't it Saudis for 9/11? Question mark.
Yeah, no,
I
don't even
was
get me
like,
started on that. Don't
question,
even get.
that's why they
That's
do the
another
question
thing I
mark.
can
But
speak
yeah,
about.
we'll get riled up with
So,
this. But yeah, have that one last.
two
Yep.
sentences to describe the
Yeah,
BS
yeah,
that is the 9/11 report. So the airplanes took out the towers made out of steel, but they didn't burn paper passports. They could burn steel beams, but they couldn't burn passports. Get out of here! And they just happen to be Saudi Arabian passports.
yeah.
It just happened to be in the perfect location. They found molten steel. Firefighters reported molten steel at the trash center, but they found paper passports. Oh
Yeah,
my
no, it's
god!
one of
It's
those
just
great not one of those great American mysteries. It's one of those tragic American mysteries that will never be
people
truly.
lost their lives so we would get involved in the
Yep.
Middle East. Innocent Americans
Yeah,
dead
it's
so
travesty.
Israel could pull us into the Middle
Yeah, I
East.
mean it's
It's
complete. It's a
disgusting.
complete travesty, and yep,
Wait,
yep,
wait,
yep.
wait, 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 wait. It gets better. It gets better. We found Saudi Arabian passports. Guess what country we don't
Saudi
invade?
Arabia.
We don't invade
They
Saudi
got all the oil.
Arabia. We invade Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Lebanon, all of them. We don't invade Saudi Arabia, the country where they found the passports linked to. How does this make sense? You want to know why? Because Saudi Arabia is friends with
Yeah,
Israel, very good friends with Israel. They have been for quite a while. They're rich. They know what's going on. They like the power. They like to control the Muslim masses in the Middle East. Saudi Arabia knows I'm the powerhouse in the Middle East. If someone doesn't agree with me, that's
yeah,
not a problem. I can get the United States and Israel to
yeah.
help me out. And that's exactly what this is. The sole reason this all happened with the ceasefire was because Israel stepped too far and bombed
Well, I was also
Qatar,
gonna
Saudi
say
Arabia, and
that
American ally.
ceasefire is. I want to get into this, but the ceasefire is very similar to Biden's. I don't know if you saw.
It
It's
is the
basically the
Biden deal.
Biden deal, and I can't state the evidence to this, but things look like they correlate. Yes, not causate on this. What I'm saying. So people have been putting together that Trump and Netanyahu met prior towards like the ending of Biden's presidency when that original peace deal was signed and then fell apart, and that they both could gain Netanyahu and Trump could gain a lot more if the war were to go on and continue because um there is a corruption trial for Netanyahu. His trial starts tomorrow, I think. I think it's tomorrow. Was it yesterday?
He's been
And he's just
delaying it by
be
using the
delaying
war.
it by using the war over and over. And guess who was on TV wanting Netanyahu to get a pardon? Trump. Huh.
Could it be that our
So
noble
when
president?
Biden got his pardon, people were saying, if you get a pardon, why do you need it? Well, let's take that same logic, turn it on its head. Why would Netanyahu need a pardon? And why is Trump advocating for him to get a pardon if he's done nothing wrong or if he's not a war criminal?
And I want to add this.
Those are the levels of context you have to wrap this whole thing around to be able to really put together that Netanyahu is he's a bad man. Even the Israelis don't want him to be leading their country anymore. That's the most like icing on the cupcake when you really look at it. They don't want him.
And
And
this is the thing.
they don't.
He in Israel, he's under charge for corruption, for taking bribes and more related to his government position. He initially got hit with these charges. Guess how many years ago?
How?
5 years ago. So he's used the war with Hamas, who, mind you, Netanyahu has admitted to funding. I'm not kidding when I say that. He literally says, you can check Israeli news publications like the Times of Jerusalem and more like Haaretz. He literally is on record for saying, yes, we paid tens of millions to Hamas because they kept the area quiet. So he paid these people, and don't worry, this started 5 years ago. He then
5 years
started
ago.
he upped the war against Hamas 5 years ago. When did October 7th happen? 2 years ago?
2 years enough. I said 5 years ago. That's wrong. About 2 years ago.
2
I
years ago,
think.
2023, October 7th, 2003. So the
Yeah.
war has been happening in hot fashion for more than double the length since October 7th happened.
I
And
mean,
every time he gets close to facing some kind of court case or something similar related to his corruption for taking bribes, they're just saying, "Oh, I can't. Emergency powers. The
well,
war's going
dude,
on."
even the freaking ceasefire.
He's
All
gonna
right, I'm
break
just
it
gonna
so he doesn't
I'm
get
gonna
corrupted.
touch on this just briefly so we can get to the I really want to get to that global news piece. I have a lot to say on it, honestly.
Yeah, feel
But
free.
looking at the farmers, obviously we all know the farmers are getting hit hard. Unfortunately, Trump did have the Argentinian president at the White House to talk about the $20 billion bailout that the farmers will not be getting. They'll be getting a $10 million bailout, so of
That
their
is
own money,
so
back
insane.
to them. So that means Argentina is worth 10 billion more than our American farmers because we want to. I believe the quote was he said, "We want to keep prosperity in Venezuela for." I forget what the actual quote is, but prosperity in Venezuela was definitely in that quote. But it's like, why the heck are we caring about Venezuelan prosperity when
You
we
mean
have our
Argentina?
farmers who are literally hurting in rural America and like paycheck to paycheck having to get rid of crops because of the immigration and all the tariffs and everything just piling up on them. It's like, when are we going to be able to help out these individuals? The same people that put this man in office are now being choked by China, who is getting a high five from Argentina, who's getting a high five from us because the money is just going from them to China's hands. I mean,
And I want to
this
add
is
to this
a
as well.
horrible it's a horrible optics, honestly, when you think about it. Like, the
Yeah,
farmers are usually Republican individuals. So
heavily.
to see them go on, various, whether it's podcasts, news stations, and talk about these things, like, it's insane. Maybe that's something we should do. I mean, maybe we can get a farmer to come on here and talk about, those issues that he's been having in New Jersey and so forth, and what's really it's trending to, and avenues like that. We can definitely look into that. I actually would love to do that. You have like our guests that we come on that are from a higher up level, and then our more regular, well, can't regular is a bad word, but our regular guests who are actually going, issues first at hand, not just talking about it and doing legislation and things of that nature. But yeah, this it's just horrible. I mean, the farmers are hurting. These are the people that, New Jersey, it's Garden State, man. If our farmers continue to hurt, it's going to be a lot of issues that are going to precipitate throughout this great state of New Jersey, the best state of New Jersey. But
And I want to add to all this that's been already said that Trump has
when
said
you get
that,
done, move to the Trump's role in Gaza peace efforts. Two
yeah,
seconds.
okay. So Trump has said that if Javier Milei wasn't the president of Argentina, that he wouldn't support them at all. And it brings up the whole question of why is that the case? Why, if this was just to help Argentina economically, you would imagine that it'd be from a non-biased standpoint of who's in charge. But he specifically said if Javier wasn't president, we would not be supporting Argentina. And this is, as we've mentioned before in the podcast, I hate the pull. I should probably start wearing a tinfoil hat because that's what some of the older folk would probably the mainstream media would probably call me a conspiracy theorist for linking this all to Israel so often. Argentina wants that recognized Palestine until Javier Milei became president until he became president. The moment Javier Milei became president, they don't recognize Palestine anymore. They're big Israel fans. So now we're in the situation where we're giving this country on quite literally the opposite side of the world, literally one of the most southernmost countries in the world, and we're in North America. That's not in the South. We're giving them 20 billion taxpayer dollars while we are 37. Is it 37 trillion in debt? Let me double check. US debt calculator. It's something around 37 trillion. I may be a little bit off there. It is da da da. Holy crap, I'm on the money. It's 37 trillion $600 billion. That is so much money that I literally it's $37 trillion of debt. I'll just repeat that one more time. We are
Oh yeah,
37
national debt,
trillion in debt. And we just
huge.
decided to spend 20 billion more bailing out another country's economy.
And another 10 billion to bail out our own farmers who we should not. I'm not saying that we should not have to bail out them, but we wouldn't be bailing them out if we didn't have these levels of ICE enforcement and these levels of tariffs that are hurting them extremely bad as these farmers are reporting it. And let's oh yeah, Jerome Powell as well. We'll talk
Yeah,
about
let me finish this
him.
note
Yeah,
on
yeah, yeah.
Argentina. So, the 20 billion to Argentina, clearly it says two things. One, we care more about Argentina than we do our farmers. And you ask yourself, why? You would imagine that if there's
Socialist Argentina, by the way, socialist government Argentina.
it's the leader's libertarian though.
Yeah.
And he's also a big Israel fan, as we've mentioned
Mhm.
before multiple times. I just mentioned it when you were gone that Argentina recognized Palestine as a country until Javier Milei came in, and then they stopped recognizing them as a country.
Yeah.
We became
Yep.
very pro-Israel.
Mhm.
And so, I think this is just, I don't think, I know this is just the United States trying to keep the hens in order, and the hens being Israel supporters. And, they clearly, the United States is saying, hey, support for Israel means more to us than you being an American, which we've seen time and time again, like
Yeah.
the fact that Israel kills American citizens, and nothing happens. If you're an
Nothing
American
happened.
citizen and you get killed by Israel, you're shit out of luck. Nothing's going to happen. If anything, they're going to bulldoze you over and then bury you in the sand like they have to quite literally other American citizens who have protested against
Yeah.
Israel.
Like, listen, those 5 Americans that died, I don't know if we've heard anything, if there's been anything ever since, even we reported that. I haven't seen anything specifically about it, but it's like they don't care. They just wanna
They
get better,
don't.
greater Israel. Like, as I've said as a like a joke to, people that, tout, Israel and so forth. I'm like, 50 states want Israel, man. 50 states want Israel and Argentina.
It
Like, what are we doing?
blows my mind how any non-Zionist American can actually. The thing is, when you tell me you're Zionist, I think, okay, you believe in Jewish supremacy.
Exa
If you're not Jewish, then I don't understand it. If you are Jewish, then I hope you get out of that mentality. Because there's nothing wrong with being Jewish. There's so much wrong with being a Zionist. And I just want to say, for the air, for the two people possibly listening, I'm also against Islamic supremacy. I'm also
Yeah,
against
any
Christian
form of
supremacy.
supremacy is not there should be no forms of supremacy. That's not
Ethnic
how
supremacy is
the
evil.
mind
That's the
works.
easiest way to
Yeah,
say it.
supremacy is god awful.
Ethnic and
It's what led
ideological supremacy is a very bad thing that leads to nothing but pain in the world because you
and
think the people
genocide.
below you aren't human like you.
Yep. You had Hitler, the Jews, you have Netanyahu, the Gaza people, you have Pol Pot, you have all those other dictators, Stalin and so forth, that targeted groups. And this is just the same boat. They're all war criminals. And
And
whether it's yeah, mhm,
I want to add this too to the whole Netanyahu case. Even when it comes to Jews, there's a specific kind of Jew Netanyahu likes. We all know about how Israel with a sterilized Ethiopian Jewish woman who came to Israel to live without their consent,
yeah,
meaning they quite literally made it impossible for these women to have children without their consent because they were African. I'm not
yeah,
kidding. Netanyahu is also on record, according to Jewish news publications, and I should say Israeli news publications, that he literally said, I don't have a problem with black Jews in the military, but I want white Jews being the commanding officers. So it's clear. It's very, very clear based off
very clear.
everything that's been done. This is the thing about ethnic supremacy, MJ, and how it makes so little sense.
Yeah,
You will start hating your own people because you don't think they're like you enough. I mean, the KKK, Christian nationalism, they hunted down Catholics. If all you care about is Christianity, why are you killing other Christians? It's because they're not the
yeah,
Christians you like. Netanyahu gets rid of the Jews he doesn't like. We even seen a Jewish woman who's a part of the flotilla. They tortured her in Israeli jail for days until she was let go. A Jewish woman It has nothing to do with whether or not you're Jewish or not. They don't care.
Yeah,
And this is
they
just
really
what
don't
blows
care.
my mind. This is how powerful the Israeli mainstream media propaganda machine is. They torture Jews, Christians, Muslims. They bomb Jews, Christians, Muslims. And then they somehow say, we're fighting the fight for the Jewish and Christian relationship of the world against radical Islam.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
like, buddy,
complete.
when Muslims controlled Palestine, Jerusalem, the population was 75% Christian, 70% Christian. Now that Israel controls it, less than 15% of the population is Christian. They all
Yeah.
left. They all
Yeah,
left.
they all and they have every right to leave it. And honestly, if I was a Christian in Israel, I would probably leave too from just how that level of treatment is. And as we've been saying, and as we continue to see, and as we continue to hope that the ever dwindling support of Israel continues at the highest level that we've ever seen it. We want that to continue. We don't want Israel to have a broad-based support when it comes to our elected officials, as we've seen with Cory Booker stating that he can't even state that Netanyahu is a war criminal, as well as those 200 plus state legislators that did go to Israel, and the Congress delegations that do go to Israel as well. It's up to our younger sorry it's up to the younger generation to take a stand on this and not want to be a part of the blood Congress, we'll call it, and want to be part of a new regime change within Congress. We don't want hawks. We want, you know, we
We
want
don't want
pragmatic doves. There we go. Pragmatic doves. What's thinking smart, what's best for all sides on any solution in a dovish manner. There's no reason for us to be, being out there, being the police force in the world, which has always been a history question ever since I was a kid, and things of that nature. We need to get away from that, and that way that we get away from that is diluting our ties to Israel. And we'll see how that goes, and then that's going to be continuation into the next section about global news. But before I get there, just want to touch on briefly just some economic pieces.
some rate cuts.
Federal Reserve Jerome Powell stated the economy is on a firmer footing despite a continuing low hiring and low firing trend, which individuals are saying this is reminiscent of 2008. And I have seen that multiple times, and numbers are put out and they're like, oh, this is reminiscent to 2009. I'm like, that's not
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
When numbers start reflecting when the first recession, major huge recession in me and Muhammad's lives, and um probably not most of our listeners lives, depending upon that age range there, seeing numbers going back down to those levels, that is teetering upon high recession levels, and a lot of states are also feeling like they're in a recession as well, which in New Jersey, that's without a doubt. I mean, electricity through the roof, groceries through the roof, like everything is getting through the roof, and there's nothing to be able to match that level of expenditures that individuals have. So,
I want to add something as well.
yeah,
So two things. One, the Fed is cutting interest rate points by 50, basis
yeah,
points by 50 at the next
hmm
meeting. At least they're projected to at 98 to 2. So
yeah,
heavily going, most likely going to do it. And that means they're basically lowering interest rates by 0.5% or aiming to, because the last time the Federal Reserve cut rates by 25 basis points, interest rates in America actually slightly went up. Hence why we were talking about stagflation the other day, where the economy is stagnating, but we're still seeing inflation, which is why
yeah,
that's such a bad duo to have. Now, right now, the Fed is saying they want to cut it by 50 basis points, which only happens when you're in a economic slowdown. Is why you cut the interest rate so much. You increase the rates so the Fed can make more money when the economy is doing well. You lower the rates to ease that amount of Fed taking the money so the economy can get more stimulus going on. So the basis points being cut is saying, hey, we do think that the economy is slowing down a bit. So hearing him say it's on strong footing makes me laugh, especially because, too, So he just announced that the Fed will go back to quantitative easing. What QE is basically the Fed buying massive amounts of like loans and bonds and such from, just the government and companies as overall to stimulate the economy. Quantitative easing is essentially like the Federal Reserve pumping the market up. It's I'll say it this way, as somebody who's got money in the market, both crypto and stock, it's probably going to make us some money. As someone who
Yeah.
also knows what quantitative easing does, it's not a healthy thing to rely on. So I think that despite the fact that Powell is saying, hey, we're in a good spot, I think the fact that they're flipping their economic policy to start quantitative easing again and also to cut race basis points by 50 points, I think he's also nervous about the direction the economy is going in.
Yeah, I mean, there was a Harris and Axios vibes poll from September 11th to September 13th of about 2,093 U.S. adults showing 47% of the general public finding grocery costs harder to afford than a year ago, 34% the same, and 19% easier. So the breakdowns revealed Democrats at 50% harder, independents at 54% harder, and Republicans being more optimistic because they're usually the more affluent party when it comes to those terms, are sitting at about 34% harder. So it's interesting to see how that break down on the party level on how they're feeling it on, as well as when it comes to the polling to how Trump is doing on the economy and so forth. And then wanting to round that section off and move into our final section with looking at global news and everything that's happening on an international piece. We've
Already
already
touched a good
touched,
amount on this,
yeah, as I
but
say, we already
I
touched
could
on
keep going.
the Trump's request for Netanyahu's pardon. We touched on the Argentinian bailout. Now, what we're going to touch into is kind of Israel's aid restrictions and the ceasefire violations, which happened
Don't
today.
get me started. Don't get me
So,
started. So
yeah, yeah, if you want to take it, go ahead.
all right, all right, all right, all right. So this is
Yeah, go ahead.
ridiculous for a few reasons. God, Israel is saying Hamas has been violating the ceasefire deal. Now, this
Already.
is don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? I'm not. This is what I hate about this situation. People like some people who are pro-Israel will say, "Well, if you don't like Israel, why do you support Islamic terrorists?" Buddy, I don't support Islamic terrorism.
Right.
I don't. I think Islamic terrorism is deplorable. I think it's evil. I think it's disgusting. I think any form of terrorism is wrong. Innocent people should not die.
Exactly.
But when a government that's being sponsored and held up as a democratic standard in the world is doing worse crimes than Muslim terrorists, yeah, I'm going to be very critical of that government. And what we're seeing right now is Israel saying that Hamas is violating the terms of the ceasefire deal because Hamas has not returned the deceased bodies of hostages yet. Hamas has returned every living hostage back to Israel. Israel still has about 8,000 Palestinians held hostage. Who, if you read the paper, if you read the news, Palestinians are prisoners, Israelis are hostages. Palestinian children are teenagers, Israeli teenagers are children. It's
Yeah.
just how it goes. It's just how the news media works. You can't criticize Israel, the powerful Zionist entity. They control everything.
Yeah.
And what they're saying is like, well, Hamas hasn't given back the dead bodies. That's violating the ceasefire. Have you guys seen pictures of Gaza? It is nothing. 87% of it is rubble.
Rubble.
87, more
Complete.
than 80%
Complete.
of the city of Gaza
I was gonna
has
say,
been
kind of like
destroyed.
what our viewers probably saw with the Palisades fire in California, 1,000 times worse.
1,000
Completely,
times,
like it
dude.
looks like it almost looks like, I'm not trying to be
No, feel free to say what you want.
impartial or anything, but I think it's almost looks like the Hiroshima and Nagasaki nuke explosions.
Less
Like,
of Hiroshima and Nagasaki got destroyed
yeah,
than Gaza.
it's insane.
More people died in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, I believe. Actually, they're saying the death count. Let me check. Let me double check myself. Um, Deaths from Nagasaki bombing, Nagasaki and Hiroshima. They estimated 140 in Hiroshima and 74 in Nagasaki. So Hiroshima a bit more than what they're than what they're saying Palestine. Palestine, I believe the death rate is around 100 120,000. But
Yeah.
I just want to add this. There was far less people in Gaza than there was in Japan greater overall during World War II.
Hmm.
But the Gaza damage to Gaza was greater than the damage to Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The death count of Gaza is very close to the death count of Hiroshima. Take that in mind. They killed as many people as we did with a nuclear bomb during the Second World War. And this is
Yeah.
the thing where I want to go with this. So the reason why they're saying they're violated is because they haven't returned the dead bodies. Dude, the Palestinians can't even find their own dead bodies, because it's
Even I
all
think when
under
they tried
rebel.
to even go over there, then they started shooting at them or hitting them with the
Israel has
water
already killed
hoses and so.
Israel
Yeah,
has killed
yeah.
around a dozen Palestinians since the ceasefire was
Yeah,
signed.
because they were like, I think they crossed like some yellow line or something like that. I read a report. I didn't pull it in for. I don't know if I. Yeah, I don't think I pulled it in for the notes. But it's just ridiculous, and like we give them between 16.3 to 21.7 billion dollars in military aid, and individuals have to understand that far exceeds the 20 billion that would be needed to end US homelessness. And we have to understand as well in the sense that we give Israelis everything. They have free healthcare, education, everything over there is free.
They
And
have
so
people
you
who literally don't work and just do Torah studies, and then they get paid by us.
literally US has spent at least $38 billion since 2023.
Our money, not the
Our
president's money,
taxpayer
not the
now, would you rather
politicians'
have
money.
that money go to Netanyahu and folks, or would you rather have half of that fraction go to homelessness within America? These are the issues that we need our elected officials at the highest level and at the lowest level to start to reckon with, because these are the things that voters are seeing. And if individuals who listen to the podcast, they get this level of information and are able to hear from perspectives that aren't trying to lean them in a biased way. We want to put this information out here for you guys so you guys can take it and digest it on your own manner and even look it up as well. Like, these are real numbers that we are putting out for the Israeli government, and that 20 billion of that can be used just to end US homelessness. And we're not even close to scratching the surface at that. We have veterans on the street and,
Yeah, I want to add.
individuals with mental health disabilities, mental health disorders in the street, but yet we will give and we will fully fund a whole other country as well as bail out another country, but we will not take care of our own in our own state or domestic policies.
And I
That's
want to
what gets
add to
me.
this of what you said of the homeless topic. According to, let me just double check my source. According to the National Coalition for Homeless Veterans, solid source when it comes to this,
Yep.
5.3% of homeless people are veterans. So if he wanted to just at first, as a project, focus on getting veteran homeless people off the street,
Yeah,
it will
just raise
cost
base of voting.
5% of that 20 billion. 5% to get the people off the street who signed up to die for this country to defend this land and their families. And the government says, screw you. Israel is far more important. Just like we're seeing with the Argentina bailout. Screw you. Argentina's more important. Why? Because they're an Israel friend.
Right. No, yeah, exactly. And
It boils
that's
my blood.
that's really one thing that boils my blood, that we give to other countries and we don't do well for our own who have fought the wars and have the battle scars, that they aren't able to return back to a normal life.
I'm not sure.
Um,
I'm really not sure. I know these politicians are shameless. I know they don't care about the actual damage they do. They just care about their spotlight. They care about their money. They care about their power. But I, as a human being, don't understand how if I had the power to get the veterans off the street, the people, like we just said, have decided to sacrifice their possible in life for
yeah.
this country. How are we gonna tell them, hey, you thank you for your choice, but Israel needs another $20 billion. It's like those memes you see every time. Like, oh yeah, the United States just got nuked. So what was the first thing they did? They sent 20 billion to Israel. It's a joke because it's a serious issue.
No, yeah,
How
it's
in
a
the
serious
world can
issue.
these politicians, especially the ones who claim to be God fearing, okay, as a God fearing man, this is just something that really double boils my blood. How are you going to say you fear God and then give money to people who destroy churches and then ignore the people in your own country that decide to take the most selfless decision they could make? It's sickening.
No,
And these
it's
people,
particularly
may
sickening.
God have mercy on them. These people are going to suffer because of that. And I hope they do. I hope they do. I hope they face the consequences of their actions for abandoning the American citizen, for abandoning our veterans. I really do.
No,
Call
I
it
hope they do too, because like abandoning our citizens with ACA subsidies, our veterans with as we were talking about the amount of money that would take to just end homelessness across the board in the United States. So just around this whole entire conversation off. Um, these are very important topics that we are going to continue to further develop on with each episode as they come. These are, as you guys have heard through this podcast, these are actually very, I'd say these are probably the most passionate topics that we've actually talked about in a collective manner on the podcast, from how our conversations have gone. So we do hope our listeners have been able to enjoy that. And as well, I just want to add a note. I did get an email. We will be having another guest. The guest that I shared with you, Muhammad, a
border party representative.
candidate running in Colorado, the congressional race. I think the District 7, either District 7 or District 1. But they confirmed for November 7th.
Cool,
So we
cool.
will be having almost back to back to back to back
Definitely
weeks
going to
of
ask
guests.
about their foreign policy beliefs. They and tax
Yeah, so I
beliefs.
sent them look through the questions. I've sent them all in the email. But yeah, we do try to have some very good, lively guests. Going to try to get some individuals from New Jersey, PA, Maryland, different political parties, different industries and groups, to try to make sure that we're giving you that engaged, balanced, and informative conversation and perspective each time you take time from your day and listen to the two of us talk about politics and all the good and
Ramble.
bad that's out there in the news cycle, so you can cut through it by listening to us. So this is
I want to add
yeah.
before we sign off. They to relate the beginning to the end, alpha and omega. But
Yeah.
they we were talking about earlier about how we need more people to be anti-Israel in America, or just anti-foreign aid as it is to Israel. They we know the young Democrats are doing that, and the Democrats, most of them honestly. But if the young Republicans that are the talk of the town of the day, if that kind
Yeah.
of mentality sweeps the right, I think the Israel will have far more to worry about than people like me and you.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too. That whole group chat was completely ridiculous. But once again, we do appreciate, everyone that listens and shares. Can't thank you guys enough. And as I said, we're gonna be having some, let me pull out the hat again. Some
This is
some
what the Koreans do. This is what the
merch
Koreans do to
coming
the
in.
heart.
So hopefully
That
we'll
hat
have
is
some
sick,
more of
though.
these.
I
Yeah,
still like it.
Muhammad, you're definitely gonna be getting one of these.
Nice, nice.
So
Thank you, thank you. Tell your girlfriend I said thank you.
no, yeah, of course. And always I hope everyone appreciates this conversation that we try to have. And we'll be back Thursday at 6. We will not have a guest episode this week, but following week we will have author Dennis Brennan of, I believe the book is DC and the Swamp. So that's going to be a more historical context conversation looking at Aaron Burr and looking at Donald Trump and how they both went after political opponents. I think it'll be a very good conversation, one that is different than the ones that we've had with our other guests. The first historical lens that we're going to be looking through.
Yeah.
Then we're going to have I believe, John Goodwin from the Forward Party, which was founded by Andrew Yang,
We
and
need to
then
schedule these. We can like put it on Twitch and like YouTube schedule at a specific time so people can see.
yeah, and then so we can finish it all up then. But good night, everyone, and we hope to see everyone on Thursday.